After the World War II was over in August of '45, there was a lot of changes in Scottsville and all up and down the Hudson River there, because all of the factories there all manufactured paper. And there was a lot of work between Northumberland, North Scottsville, South Scottsville, Victory Mills. All of those places had paper factories. They all made different kinds of paper. In Hudson Falls, New York, up north, they made wallpaper, but they didn't make wallpaper in Victory or any of those other places. And so consequently, there had been a big boom for during the war years. But after the war years, there was they lost contracts because the government didn't need as many paper as they did before. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, the people in Alabama had been already raising forests, huge forests, because they were going to, unbeknownst to our people, the owners were going to transfer all that factory to Alabama.
Okay, so all the paper and everything was just going to Alabama.
It was going away. That's what happened. The only one that was new was over in East Greenwich, mm-hmm. and that's where they invented, in this little small paper mill, they invented the paper that's used in the filters of oil, in your car. Mm-hmm. Okay, that paper that goes in that filter for your oil cleaner in your car, that's very high tech. Mm-hmm. That's where it was invented, right there in that little place. Wow. And it's still in operation, by the way. But anyway, so now we've got a whole bunch of GIs coming home. And they were all released at different times, and, things were whatever. But there was less work. And in the summer of '46, and just before I got out of high school, Joe Peets was a foreman down in Mechanicville at a railroad transfer, the Boston and Maine Railroad, where they did a lot of, they shipped big freight train loads up to Mechanicville, and then in that transfer, that's where they split all that merchandise out into different cars going to different states in the Northeast, mm-hmm. Boston and Maine. Anyway, so that summer I worked a little bit back at school, but then in the summer of, the spring of '47, after I got out of school, I went down there and I worked. But my problem was, now all of these people are home, all these GIs. Mm-hmm. They had what they called a 52-20 club. And that meant that for 1 year, they could go over to Saratoga Springs. There was a government agency over there where they could get $20 a week. Hmm. So here I am working down in that transfer, and by 3:30, between 3 and 3:30, I was home, had my bath, and now I'm standing on the street corner with the guys that aren't working. Hmm. They don't work all day because there wasn't any place for them. Then I decided that I was going to, well, it was the Army Air Force that I was going to join. Mm-hmm. My mother didn't like that, but she understood it. I didn't have to explain it to her. There wasn't any big problem. And eventually then, end of August, I went to Glens Falls to a recruiting office and signed up. So then they sent me to Albany, mm-hmm. to get a little preliminary physical. And
go through MEPS? Like now they call it MEPS?
I don't know that.
It's like the evaluation process.
Yeah. But the only thing what they did down there, they didn't even give me a blood test, didn't do anything. But I signed up and they swore me in. That's just about what
right then and there?
Yeah. And then I had to go to New York, though. Then they sent down the whole trainload of us went down to New York.
To the big city?
To the big city, out of the Brooklyn Navy Yard. They had a big places there for physicals. And that's where I took the physical. And then on the 3rd of September, 1947 is when I held my hand up and was sworn in. Then we had 2 trainloads of people, really, because there was a lot of people the same way because the labor was so bad, and not everybody wanted to go to college either. Not that the colleges were overcrowded, but they just didn't have anything to offer because the industry's gone, all these things gone. There was nothing to train for. If you were a farmer's son or something, well, maybe you could train to be a farmer, but that was it. And that didn't pay very well either.
No.
Because, in fact, the summer of 45, I worked with a farm over in Durgeetown, and I got $12 a week in my room and board. But I worked 6 days for that. But then the youngest son, didn't do a very good job of driving the tractor when we were baling hay and all that stuff. The boss guy, he fired him and gave me $3 more a week. Now I'm making $15 a week.
And that was great, right?
That was for my summer. I rode home on my bike every Saturday night and went to the store where Mom worked, and she'd already had a meal ready to go when she got out of the store, and I spent the time there on Saturday night, and then Sunday afternoon I rode back to the farm on my bike.
And how far was the farm?
Oh, that was probably about 7 or 8 miles. Yeah, I come home one way, which was less hills, and I went back the other way to the west, which had less hills going the other way. The only thing bad on that other way going back is there was one farm that had 2 great big huge cow dogs, and they always were waiting for me to ride my bike down.
And give them their exercise?
I learned to ride the bike down that because it was downhill. I get going fast as I could, put my feet up on the handlebars and hang on because they'd knock you down. But anyway, that was just a shot there. Very busy farm. The first people that ever had a hay baler in the area. They had 2 sons of their own. They had a nephew from Baltimore, and they had me, and they had 2 other guys from Fort Edward. Excuse me. So that was a big group of people to feed.
Yeah.
But they fed us very well. At 10 every day, we got the farmer's daughter come out with big basket full of sandwiches and some water. We usually had water to drink and feed us, and the same thing at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wow.
Because we had to finish the afternoon and then get the cows in, milk those, and we didn't even get in the house until 6 o'clock or so because we had to milk 50 cows.
Wow.
That was a big deal. Anyway, when we got on the train to go to Lackland, didn't know where that was, had no idea.
Never heard of it.
That was a really quite a trip, but they fed us. Military fed us there. Not military. They had contract cooks and things on that train because they weren't military. But when we got
So was it like a direct line from New York to Lackland?
No. Every time that we got going good, they'd put us on a siding, let the main ones go through. Here come these high-speed ones going through. They're whistling and they're going like a devil, and we're sitting there.
So just like they were just civilians,
Yeah,
and they got like the right of way over you guys?
Yeah. They were in high gear. So we got into a good group. Well, you saw barracks like the one that we saw when you guys were down in Lackland when Tyler graduated, right? And you saw in that one area where the barracks just like the one that we had. But we had a good flight. We had 60 people in it, and they were all good workers. we had a weekend pass. We were there 13 weeks, and we had a weekend pass every weekend because we had we did what we were supposed to do in the barracks. We kept our uniforms up. We did well in our marching. Our whole group of 60, everybody wanted to cooperate to graduate. But what they did, their inspiration they gave you, when we got the guy we had he was a buck sergeant, three-striper, and we got assigned to his squadron in a barracks just adjacent to the one he was. And the first thing he did, when the first day that we were there, he fell us out in the street. He said, in no directions, anything. He says, now, I want you to turn around, and I want you to watch what I'm going to show you. Well, here was the flight that he just finished graduating. They'd had 13 weeks there. And they were right across the street, right there in the same macadam that we were. And he didn't even leave. He walked on the other side of us, and then he gave the information. I forgot what our flight was, 2302, but I don't remember what the other one was. But anyway, he gives the call, flight, whatever it was, and he called him to attention. And we didn't even know it was up the street. He marched them right up through there.
Wow.
Right there, right by us. And then he stepped out, and he had them doing every maneuver that you could imagine. All new, but they've had 13 weeks to practice. So they were really sharp. They were really quick. So he stopped them right opposite of us. He said, he introduced us to them, but he turned to us and said, when you get to your 7th week, you're going to look just like they just looked like. That was something. That was really something out there. And it impressed our 60 guys to want to do the same thing.
It wasn't intimidating at all? You were like,
No.
okay, we can be like this?
Yeah. Well, you had a goal. You had, because he hadn't even lined us up yet according to height or nothing. No, we were just 60 guys hanging around.
So, you were in like a little bit of a formation, but you weren't.
No, just standing there. So anyway, he says, you don't have to worry. You are going to look just the same, and you could even be better, he said. So these guys, he said, I'm so proud of them. And he told us how many flights he'd had already. So we didn't have how many 13-week deals he had. But anyway, he was a nice guy, but he was tough. He was very tough. But the trouble is that he and 2 other chiefs in barracks right there, right in a row. Unfortunately, one of their sad thing is that Saturday night was drinking night. And one time, and we always had, in addition to our daily duties, going to school, marching, first aid,
PT, everything.
PT, and firing range, dry fire, all this stuff. It isn't like you lounge around and do anything, because we did. But anyway, we had one of those 3 barracks had a weekend guard duty, okay? And we had a weekend guard duty. And for some reason, I don't know why, he appointed me as a sergeant of the guard. So, okay. Well, I'll tell you, it was after midnight, and the guys would go around, and I would go around the barracks too, watching, and if they had a problem, I was supposed to help them out, but hell, I didn't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, here come these 3 guys. They were so drunk, they didn't know what they were doing.
Oh.
They didn't even know which barracks was their own. So I got 2 guys out. I said, you take this one there, you take that one there. And I said, I'm going to take our up and put him in bed. So I did that. And he couldn't believe it, because he didn't know where the hell he was. Anyway, that was my first action as being in the military. I got him up there. Then he recognized the room. So the next morning, it would have been on Sunday morning. He had an assistant, but that guy was from another barracks too. He come down, and that assistant marched us to chow, which was fine. We all had to eat. We all had our own chow hall. So, but that next morning, on Monday morning, he walked up to me in the flight before we did anything, and he wanted to thank. He remembered I was the one that put him to bed. So that was different. But this guy, he was from, like I say, Tennessee. He had the worst accent you've ever heard in your life. I tell you, it was neat. It was just neat with him doing the things he did. So while we were in basic then, we saw our first jet airplane. It was a P-80 jet, and nobody in those days, most of the 60, had never seen a jet.
So this is with the big jet engine in it. It's not like the other ones where it's.
No, it was a Shooting Star. It was called. That was a military name, and it had a jet engine. Yes. And Clarkfield. Yep. No, not Clarkfield. I forgot the name of the field. Just below there, the military Air Force. But that's where we saw them land and take it off. Well, later on in our 13 weeks, when it come time to people to put down what maybe they'd want to, what kind of work they want to do, 55 people put in for jet mechanic. Well, everybody knew that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, one guy that didn't put in for it got it.
I knew that was going to happen.
Well, he was in his military. They give you these tests. He had tested very, very well for mechanical adaptability.